And welcome back to the Constitutionals podcast. I'm your host, Chad White. If you didn't know, this is a premiere podcast. This is a premiere podcast for the website, cpluscomedy.com. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there. If you're watching the video, you will see that I have purchased an arm for the microphone. Immediately, as soon as I got this last night, I set it up and I put it on the desk, which at first it did not fit, but I had to do some finagling, and thank God the sides of this desk allowed for this thing to barely fit on completely, and now I have this arm, and as soon as I put it on, I went, why did I not do this before? I have yet to string the microphone wire across the arm like how the professionals do it. I will do that at a later date, but right now I have this arm and it works, and it moves the mic around, and it moves when I move, and I move it whenever I need to, and oh God, it just feels so much better. It's just so much better. It's hands free. I don't have to adjust it or anything. It is a little too high right now. There we go. But now it works. It works. I'm sitting up straight. Feels good. So there's that. I am on day 5 of still having no job. So there we go. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to start this. Oh, tell me. Okay. Anyway, this is episode 191 of this show. I know because I looked last night. Speaking of last night, I've been as we know, I've been applying to jobs again for the second time forever, in a couple of years, and I've been applying to places, and I've just been, I found the exact job that I did at my last position at Turner's at Warner Media. Now, notoriously hard to get in, and I've been emailing people left and right, LinkedIning. Title. I've been trying to find people, and it's tough, and no one's responding. I've been reaching out to the recruiters there, and they don't seem to want to respond, and human resources, and the manager of the position. And that led me to go to my on the cpluscomedy.com. Under the podcast tab, you can see that I previously have made a podcast for a position I was trying to apply for at WABE, the NPR affiliate in Atlanta, or the public radio affiliate in Atlanta, and I made it to like the final round of interviews. I was one of 2 people, and they did not hire me, obviously. But I made it. I did a daily podcast, and I did 53 episodes, I think. But they're all half-hour long, and they were all. I was listening to a couple of minutes here and there of some of them last night, and they're, by golly, some of them are really, really good, and it's very funny premises, and I mean it was a serious thing to do, but it was just an interesting thing to have on the portfolio. And now I'm just trying to find a way to stand out with this current position that I'm trying to apply for. Because they're not, these people, let me tell you, these people, they don't care. Speaking of things not to care about, let's move on to the first topic. We'll get to the Golden Globe nominations in a second, but this first one comes from Billboard, and we'll have a lot of Billboard stories today. Joe Budden brings his podcast to Patreon, joins the company as head creator of Equity. This is written by Micah Singleton over on Billboard, released nearly 2 days ago. So as I mentioned, I think a couple of months ago, probably back in September, October, Joe Budden was having a lot of problems with Spotify. And it makes sense because they just had that they were finishing the acquisition of Gimlet, Anchor, and a bunch of other, excuse me? One of the... Okay. Thank you, Google. And they had just finished all these acquisitions. And then more importantly, they had this giant partnership with Joe Rogan to be the purveyors of his podcast. And Joe Budden, rightfully so, feels that he got the short end of the stick and he was very vocal about not wanting to partner with Spotify any longer. I'm not a fan of Joe Budden, but I totally agree with everything he has said about this subject. It's crazy. So he pulled his show from Spotify, and now he's going to Patreon, which is where everybody's going. The Hollywood Handbook men, white guys, have left Earwolf, and now they're on Patreon, and now they're making something like $38,000 a month on Patreon, which is insane. But they're putting out good product, and that's what we call it, good product, baby. So the Joe Budden podcast with Rory and Mal and the Joe Budden Network are all going to be hosted on Patreon, this is announced Wednesday, and he's going to be the head of creative equity, which is a new advisory role that will have him focused on making sure creators on the platform have an equal seat at the table, which is something that if you are bought up by a conglomerate like Spotify, you're not going to. Like you're not going to have that seat, which I can assure you that, is it Alex Gibney from Gimlet? If he still works there, I doubt he has any major say over. Just did a salute like it was on How I Met Your Mother. He has any major say on what's going to be, what changes are going to come to the Gimlet medium, the Gimlet Media Corporation. What other companies did Spotify buy? Doesn't matter. Let's see. So Spotify recently has created deals with Barack and Michelle Obama, Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, Joe Rogan. Its share price went up 8% on that day. It was announced the Joe Rogan thing. All these other companies, including Apple and Amazon, are all trying to have these giant slates of exclusive podcasts that you can only listen to on their platforms, which I don't think is lucrative. Nobody, and I'm not even gonna say think. I don't believe it's lucrative. It cannot be like, what is that company that Trevor Noah's podcast, Hannibal Buress's podcast? Oh God, I can't even remember. It's Luminary. I don't even know if that is doing any type of profit right now because it just doesn't make sense. Nobody wants to have a proprietary podcast player. They want to use a thing that A, came with their phone, or B, is able to be the best podcatcher there is for a nominal fee or with the least amount of subscription or intrusive ads. I say that second part, that amendment to that second part, because Pocket Casts used to be, and I've mentioned this before, I think I mentioned this like last week or the week before, Pocket Casts used to be $5 for the app, $5 for web, and then so you pay $5 for Apple on the iStore, Apple iTunes Store or App Store. You pay for it on the Google Play Store. You pay for it on the web. You spend $15. You got a great podcasting app. But now we're on. Anyway, yeah. Let's look at Luminary real quick. This is from Bloomberg. This is April 24th, 2020. Opening incognito because I don't want this to count against the 2 articles you get a year, apparently, on Bloomberg. This says, after a dim first year, Luminary is still chasing the podcasting zeitgeist. No ads, no Axelrod, no problem. New CEOs gung-ho on the subscription model. People don't want to pay $5 a month to listen to their favorite podcasts. Unless you're paying that person directly. And that's just how I feel, at least. Okay. So they lowered their fee down to $5 a month. Yeah, it was $8. Jesus. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, I hope this is so it looks like, going back to Joe Budden's thing, it looks like Joe is very excited about this new partnership. He talks about how the system was broken, but even between Complex, the original place where he worked, and then Spotify. But now he's friends with Jack Conte, which is Patreon's co-founder, and he's a musician. You can listen to the story of how he and I forgot the other guy who helped him, who created Patreon with him. I forgot his name, but yeah. Anyway, oh my God, this podcasting arm is just wonderful. I'm still trying to figure things out. It fits the Yeti, which is great. So yes, so this is so I understand that it's going to be hosted by Patreon, but I don't. Yep, it is a Patreon show, so you can pay for it. $5 a month will get you a bonus video podcast. He had the numbers. Coward. Coward. Yeah, so it is a Patreon podcast. So it is still free from what I can assume. In fact, let me look it up on Pocket Casts. I can only assume it's still free because that's where his fanship is. Joe Budden. If I type in Joe Budden on Pocket Casts, Mayim Bialik has a podcast apparently. So there you go. Yes, it is free. It is still very much free. 3-hour episodes. Jesus. I was to listen to that. Oh my God. He has his own network. Very interesting. Just like that Ezra Klein thing I told you about last week. So there you go. There's that. And then I don't want to talk about the Golden Globes. The nominations. It's pretty wobbly. This arm is pretty wobbly. All right. I don't want to harp on those nominations. I don't want to read them line by line, but let me just say, and I told this to a friend, this has got to be, pandemic or not, because stuff still came out, TV shows still came out, movies still came out. This has got to be the worst and the whitest Golden Globes I've ever seen. And just because women directors, good for them, just because they got more nominations than male directors, does not mean that these problems are fixed. The Hollywood Foreign Press Association, which does lead these nominations, they could have done better. They really could have done better. Okay, it's just like, it's stuff I've heard of, and I'm glad Nomadland is up there and Promising Young Woman, but a movie like Mank, which I don't think has any characters of color. That's insane. I don't know. This is also strange to me, and this is I don't know. I'm not a fan of the choices. Like, why is Prom up there nominated when I don't like reviews or anything, but when that was critically panned, is it because it's a glitzy, glamorous movie that seemingly everybody saw and it was available on Netflix? It's up there with Hamilton and Borat and Palm Springs. 3 of the biggest musicals and comedies of the year. And Prom came out and just, crapped the bed. I just disagree with all of this. I don't like any of these. With the exception of the Borat stuff and the Hamilton stuff, and people like Dev Patel and Sandberg and what's The Sound of Metal, Over the Moon, Soul, Onward Again is another movie by white people, made for white people. The Croods. This is what pisses me off. Trolls World Tour is better than The Croods, that new Croods movie. And Trolls World Tour was not nominated. The Croods has 0 people of color in that movie. It's insane. Anyway, okay, listen, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Morgan Wallen and country music. Coming back in 3, 2, 1, and we're back. Just because I have an arm on this microphone now doesn't mean I won't pull out the headphones at the last minute when we're coming back. What else has been going on? Nothing. I bought some more face masks to double up on. I bought some disposable ones to help me double up on. We got the big game coming up. This week's episode of News Time had to be cobbled together. Is about, I'm doing News Time all month this February. Is about Black history stuff in the media pop culture zeitgeist, and I only have 2 weeks planned. So I have to do 2 more weeks after this at some point. But this week's episode was kind of cobbled together about, what black TV shows are good. And next week's episode is a football themed episode, because I always do those apparently, and or at least for the big sporting events, and football and basketball at least, and nothing else. And it's gonna be about the black coaches that have gotten their fair share. Shout out to Tampa Bay. As much as I hate Florida as a whole, Tampa Bay has the most diverse coaches. I think there's like 2 women and 3 black coaches, which is very good. Yeah. Anyway, let's get on with this. Okay, so earlier this week, a video was released, I think via TMZ. Clearly it's TMZ. And poor Armie Hammer. Poor Armie Hammer. I just saw the article. The most popular article on Variety right now is Armie Hammer's Hollywood career is in free fall as sex scandal explodes on social media. Now, the big thing about the scandal is, yes, there's a sex scandal, but he's separated from his wife, and it was just like a whole weird thing. But there's rumors going around that that he's a cannibal, but they're unsubstantiated, and no one seems to believe them, but they just keep popping up. I don't know why I'm laughing. It's insane. It's insane. But when I saw that video of his hotel on Instagram that he posted to his private Instagram, but it was uploaded elsewhere, of that woman on all fours on his bed, and he was high on DMT. Like, hey man, anything's possible. Okay, let's move on. All right, this is written by Chris Wilman on Variety. Country radio quickly removing Morgan Wallen from playlists after racial slur. So here's the thing. I went to school in Tennessee. I live in Georgia. I live in the South. I have a diverse set of friends. I enjoy country music. I really like country music because in a lot of ways, country music is rap music, but with guitars and banjos. And these words have never been spoken. And I really do, besides the black country singers, Darius Rucker, who probably might have been one of the original country artists I listened to. Yeah, he probably was, 100%. And Kane Brown. I enjoy Miranda Lambert and Brad Paisley. Maren Morris, I genuinely, Jason Aldean, we'll get to that in a second, but I genuinely enjoy country music. I had to learn to, just like I grew up with rap music and soul and R&B. Later years especially in my college life, going to school in Tennessee, learned to like country music a lot. So Morgan Wallen is a young country artist from Nashville. Has a mullet. I would probably cross the street if I saw him, just as he would cross the street if he saw me. Just as he and his white wife, I can only assume, or girlfriend, probably blonde, would cross the street if they saw me. Just like all of my neighbors here. Very true. Happened twice in the past 2 weeks. So I live here. We all pay $1,800 for rent. I mean, come on. Anyway, so he's caught on video. He's been in trouble past couple of for a little bit. In October he was going to be on SNL, was out partying, and then he was booted from that. Then they brought him back, and now he was on SNL. So earlier this week, video released. His neighbor took from across the street. He was outside, intoxicated as usual. And he had some profanity and slurs to say to somebody he disagreed with. And then the video was confirmed the next morning when the neighbor took video of Morgan Wallen and his white, blonde, prideful girlfriend or wife walking out of his home in Nashville. I thank the neighbor for doing this, because this needs to be, said. This needs to be done. So, Morgan Wallen has been removed from Cumulus, which is especially powerful in the country radio sphere, iHeartMedia, Spotify playlists. He's been removed, Apple's music country playlist. He's been removed from pretty much every playlist. CMT, the country music television network, denounced him. They said after learning of Morgan Wallen's racial slur late last night, we are in the process of removing his appearances from all of our platforms. We do not tolerate or condone words and actions that are in direct opposition to our core values that celebrate diversity, equity, and inclusion. I don't know how serious that is, but or how meaningful that is, but it is very serious coming after a very tense election and after an uprising at the Capitol that had to do with race. That was 100% about race. And, everything that's been going on for the past, let's say, 50, 60 years. Wallen, of course, said he's embarrassed and sorry, and he used unacceptable and inappropriate racial slur that he wished he could take back, blah, 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 all this stuff. But now he's slowly losing things. Let's see. His contract is suspended, not canceled. This comes from Billboard, written by Melinda Newman. Morgan Wallen's big, loud contract suspended after his racial slur. That doesn't mean anything. They could just, he could just, they could be like, all right, in October, they could go, okay, well, it's been a couple of months. We'll let you make another album. Oh, also, he just released an album a couple of weeks ago that has like 24 songs on it, 18 or 24 songs, which is way too many songs for anybody. If Beyonce put out something that big, I would go, all right, Beyonce. If Taylor did that, and Taylor has, she put out something like 16 songs. And then also country stars have been reacting. And I want you to take note of the people I say have been reacting. Herman Mamo wrote this for Billboard. Maren Morris, Mickey Guyton, and more artists react to Morgan Wallen using the N-word. Female country stars, and that's what you have to take into account. Female country stars: Mickey Guyton, Kelsey Ballerini, Maren Morris. Two of those people I listen to, I don't know who Mickey Guyton is, called him out for using a racial slur against Black Americans, which was caught on video January 31st. Morris and Guyton claimed that this wasn't Wallen's first offense of specifically regarding the N-word, while Morris, Ballerini, and Leah Turner explained how the consequences would have been worse had a female artist done the same thing, which is very true. And I think it was the New York Times podcast, but I have heard and read accounts of female artists in the country sphere just being shoehorned into these places where that they're women, and but then also not getting the same chances as the men in the same space because, quite frankly, they're women. So they have included the tweets. Let's see. Maren Morris, Mickey Guyton, the hate runs deep. SMFH. Maren Morris put up a GIF. Mickey Guyton continues to tweet. This is not the first time This is not his first time using that quote unquote unacceptable racial slur. And we all known that. Brackets sick, SIC. So what exactly are y'all going to do about it? Crickets won't work this time. Mickey Guyton's really going in. Maren Morris, it actually is representative of our town because this isn't the first scuffle, and he just demolished a huge streaming record last month regardless. We all know that this isn't the first time using that word. We keep them rich and protected at all costs with no remorse. And it's very Jason Isbell came out. I didn't know he said that. I didn't say tar and feather the boy. If he makes real change, his life will be just fine. But if he isn't held accountable, Black people in the industry will know how little country music really cares about them even now. And that's much sadder to me than alcoholism. And yeah, people are trying to blame the alcohol because he gets in trouble whenever he drinks. But it's not. I mean, it's much more than that at this point. He needs to. It's a system, especially in music, that is really keeping people pigeonholed pigeonholed into these frameworks that they have to be something. You know, I saw an article yesterday that said Lil Uzi Vert, I believe, I don't know, one of those Lils, put a 24 million diamond in his head, like just embedded in his forehead, looking like Raven from Teen Titans. Now the problem is, you know, that I don't think that paints a good picture for rappers as a whole, you know, because everybody is going to think, not everybody, but, you know, stupid people are going to go, okay, well, Tyler the Creator is the same way, or Earl Sweatshirt's the same way, when in fact they're not the same as Lil Uzi Vert or whoever the person who did it is. In that same vein, the female artists, they get, you know, hand on their neck, ridiculed for not wanting a man enough, for wanting to be independent, for standing up for their rights. Look at the chicks. I don't say Dixie Chicks. But look at the chicks who last week, for the first time ever, I listened to every one of their songs. Like one day I forgot what, I think I was cleaning or something, and I just went on YouTube Music and I just played everything from the top down, and I enjoyed my time and I loved it. And they had just some great melodies. But look at what they've been doing, standing up against, you know, quote unquote, the man, and they have not gotten the recognition that they deserve, which is insane. But, you know, and even more insane is that Morgan Wallen's sales have skyrocketed after the fact, after he was taken off the radio. Now, this comes from New York Times Cooking emails me at least 5 times a day. This comes from Ren Graves over at Consequence of Sound. The sales are up 339%. Now, this makes sense because he's getting taken off the radio. His fans who love him are going to go, I don't care what he said. He's an American patriot, and I'm going to buy everything that he has. And so they buy the 1 or 2 albums that are out, and thinking that this is going to be, you know, forever. And it's not going to be forever. I mean, there's worse people out there. Not worse. There's people that are just like him out there. Case in point, getting back to quite possibly my favorite country artist, Jason Aldean. And apparently, I did not know this, Trump supporter. He's a Trump supporter. And we'll get back to that in a second. But he posted, after it was announced that Biden won the election, he posted, oh, the camera shut off. Excuse me. He posted a picture of, you know, questioning on Instagram, I think, of did Biden really win the election? And the thing is, yeah, he did. And his wife did the same thing. And it's all quite annoying, to be completely honest. Give me a second. I'm going to start the camera again. Start the camera again because I feel like I'm going to go on for just a couple more minutes. And so he and his wife post these, did Biden really win the election thing? I'm going to look this up. Jason Aldean election fraud. And I think his wife posted something first, and that's what led me to find, Trump conspiracies. Here we go. This is from the Rolling Stone. Why are country music wives pushing baseless conspiracy theories? Written by Joseph Hudak. On Wednesday night, just a few hours after a mob of Trump supporters egged on by President Donald Trump forcibly broke into the U.S. Capitol, Brittany Aldean shared an image of 2 of the rioters on her Instagram stories. This is a quote from her. Antifa disguised as Trump supporters. Shocker. And it's just ridiculous that we live in this kind of world where these people in these high positions can put out this type of salacious material. But the thing is that as a country fan, as a black country fan, and as a music fan, as a whole, you know, saying that is very discouraging from listening and enjoying country. Because I'm, you know, I think about the last time I went to a concert. I think was Dave East, like 4 years ago. But I went to a Dave East concert in Atlanta, and I think I've told the story before, but he was like 3 hours late. But even a majority black, black clientele there at the concert, the center stage in here in Atlanta. But the thing is, a lot of the crowd, but besides it being 80% black, a lot of that crowd was of different races. And then same thing for, but then I went to Mr. Wide center stage, and it was mostly white people. But and then I think about the last two concerts I went to were U2 and Taylor Swift over there in California, and I would say that those are very diverse because U2 is global. I mean, come on, baby, U2 is global, baby. And then Taylor's Taylor, so. In my head, I'm going to say white Beyonce, but that's not true. Taylor's white Beyonce. But music, for whatever it is, music, it doesn't have to be, but it's fully. Hey, what the hell is that? There's a car outside, but is fully expected to be this thing that everybody can enjoy and glom onto. And then when you have these country singers, and then I think earlier this week there was who does Chop Suey? System of a Down. One of the singers for that is was throwing out conspiracy theories, talking about Antifa this, Antifa that, and he was right-wing conspiracy theories, and so he's a hardcore Republican, I guess, and it stinks because Chop Suey and other System of a Down songs that I cannot remember right now are great, especially in the gym, and it just sucks because especially when I started getting into country, I knew what I was getting into, and I had to Google whenever I find a new country artist or I find. Or if I want to start listening to somebody, and this is very much true. I Google, and apparently I didn't do it well enough for Jason Aldean, but I'll go like Maren Morris, Trump, Carrie Underwood, Trump, racist, just something along those lines, just to make sure that just because I enjoyed this one song doesn't mean that that they're a good person that's going to be supportive of me supporting them. But anyway, it's just staggering, Apparently, this is from that same Rolling Stone article. Brittany Kelly, the wife of Florida Georgia Line member Brian Kelly, and another fashion designer influencer is following her lead. After the election, she posted an Instagram story rife with conspiratorial buzzwords. Oh, Jesus, come on, man. I don't like Florida Georgia Line, but still. Travis Tritt's wife. Oh my gosh. She's in a parlor. Man, I don't know what's in Travis Tritt, but still. But still. And it's disheartening. It's disheartening, and it really does. And that it makes sense why people why black people and Indian people and Asian people and Latino people, they stay away from country music because why the Spanish speakers. I don't know Portuguese. I don't know what to say. But it explains why everybody who's non-white stays away from country music. Because it is this thing that is not for outsiders, in quotes. But then, in the same vein, I think that, in the way I said earlier, country and rap are the same. I think about this all the time whenever a country song comes on, my workout playlist. Whereas Jason Aldean, "The Dirt We're Raised On," or "The Only Way I Know," it has the same beats as rap. And I think it's something that everyone understands, but they just don't want to admit that, and Jason Aldean even has songs with Ludacris. That's why I thought he was fine. I was like, Jason Aldean is not racist. He's friends with Ludacris. And he does this little country rap thing, he doesn't sing his lyrics, he raps them in most of his songs. Um, but they talk about they want to protect the people around them. They love the women that they love, and they hate the people that they hate. They don't want you to come around there if you don't like. I mean, truly, rap and country are the same genre, just with different instruments. One has 808s and one has guitars. It's just infuriating and frustrating, you know. I mean, but okay. This is very interesting. I'd stopped recording on the. I'd stopped recording on the recorder. I got up to turn on the camera, and I forgot to press record again. I've been talking for maybe 7 or 8 minutes, and that's some really good stuff. Basically, all I was saying was that a lot of famous country wives are have spoken against this against against Democrats and all this stuff. Should I even continue this godforsaken episode? But what I was getting at, I don't know if I'll include the camera audio into this, but what I was getting at is that country and rap are the same thing, and we need to understand that and get that by. All right, let's end this episode so I can figure out what to do with this. If you like what you heard here, head to the website, cpluscomedy.com, where you can see me interview famous comedians sometimes. I haven't done it this year, but sometimes. If you want to see a video version of this show with me still trying to figure things out, youtube.com/cpluscomedy, where you can see our premiere show, News Time, which is it's like The Daily Show except less funny. And then you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter @CPlusComedy. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter @ChadBlackWhite. Like us on the Facebook. Listen, rate, review, subscribe to this show, truly wherever you get your podcasts. And I got to put this episode together somehow. I'll use the camera audio. It's fine if I listen to the show anyway. Goodbye.